Alright, so last month, a brand new Alex Garland film released in theaters. This was called Civil War. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I got a whole review on it. You can go check out that review. In a couple of days, I'm going to have an April ranking where I'll talk about that movie. You can check that one out as well in a couple of days when it's uploaded. But today, we're going to dive into Alex Garland's entire filmography, his 4 films that he made. We're going to rank them. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a controversy because he might have directed Dread, but it's not official, so we're not going to include that on there. But before I get started, please make sure to subscribe, like button, hit the bell, and comment down below. What is your ranking of Alex Garland's all 4 films? I want to know all that and more. It is currently, if my watch will work here. Look at this dumb thing. It's supposed to turn on. It's currently 11:55 at night. I decided instead of filming this earlier to watch Logan. And Logan was incredible. Anyways, we'll save that for the X-Men ranking coming after Deadpool 3. And with that said, coming in last place for my Alex Garland ranking is going to be number 4, a movie that I keep switching with number 3 quite often. And this was one that I always wanted to put at number 3 because I think that it's more interesting, it's executed better, but by the time it was over, I was just kind of over it. And I'm going to put number 4, like I said, this switch, I'm gonna put it with Ex Machina. Ex Machina is my least favorite Alex Garland film. Now, I like movies like this. I like isolated thrillers. I think Oscar Isaac was fantastic in this. The movie always gave us questions that we wanted to get answers to, and most of the answers, I think they're pretty solid. I was invested in the story. I was interested throughout the majority of the film. I thought the cast was very good, and there's just a little level of creepiness in the movie as well. Where this one kind of falls apart and what leaves just a very sour taste in my mouth is the fact that the movie, it goes on for way too long. It's only like, I'd say, an hour and 45, I think. And the movie decides, hey, what if after we get the final closing bit, which I think I didn't think that was totally executed well either. What if after that we get like a 5-minute long sequence of the robot taking off other parts of another robot? Like, that sequence is really weird, and if it was like 2 minutes I'd be fine, but they stretched it out for 5 minutes and it was over long. What if we do that? And then we see what happens when she leaves the place and goes out into the real world. Alex Garland, in his next film that I'm going to talk about, and another film as well, the next 2, he doesn't really explain the ending well. I feel like they could always be stretched out. This one feels like it needed to be way shortened, because man, I get the point. Yeah, when they lock the guy in the doors, she's gone. I don't need to see her fly all the way back to America and then walk through a train station for a minute. I don't need to see all that. And by the end of the movie, especially after, if you know me, I hate things where it takes forever to prove a point, and at the very beginning, or not the very beginning, but the very beginning of the ending sequence, when she's like tearing off the body parts and making herself look human, at that point in time, there was just so much. The sequence was way too long for me that I was just kind of running out of patience. And by the end of the movie, where it just completely stretched out and wore my patience super thin. Of course, I know it's Alex Garland's directorial debut. There's plenty to like here. The majority of the film, I'd say the first hour and 25, hour and a half, is very compelling. But I think the moment that stuff goes down in the finale, like the last 10 minutes just stretched it so thin that it just left a massive sour taste in my mouth. Number 3, I'm going with Men. Now, this is an interesting movie for me because the first, I'd say, half hour of the movie is boring. I cannot explain to you how bored I was while watching the first 30 minutes of the movie. I didn't even want to watch this. I just watched it for this specific ranking. I just flicked it on and was like in the mood to watch an action movie or something. Nothing happened for the first 30 minutes. Like we just mentioned, the thing that I absolutely hate is when you drag out a sequence so long. And there are like sequences where it just shows the main character walking through the woods doing what? Like, she wasn't even doing anything. It was just her walking through the woods. It was boring. The second part of the movie, the next half hour, 45 minutes I'd say, were genuinely intriguing and genuinely kind of creepy, if I'm being honest. What Alex Garland can do well is make a nice level of suspense, and he does that very well in the middle act of this movie. There are plenty of sequences where I was like, whoa, okay, that's kind of creepy. There's a sequence in particular where she's just like sitting in front of a computer eating fruit or whatever, and like the guy is just outside walking around and she doesn't notice, and that sequence is genuinely intriguing. And after that, for like next half hour, 45 minutes, I was genuinely intrigued in the movie. But then we enter the end 15 minutes, and I feel like it gets stretched out for like 5 more minutes. At least attempt to explain what's actually happening, because it doesn't. There's so many analogies that I didn't even realize that these were all played by the same guy. He was very good in this movie. But there are just so many sequences where, okay, so that thing's getting birthed, and then it's giving birth to another thing, and ew, what is going on? I didn't understand any of that. And at the end of the movie, she just goes to talk to her husband, who's alive somehow, for some kind of analogy ending. I didn't get it. And typically with movies like this, kind of like with Denis Villeneuve's Enemy, I would go to the internet and search, hey, what the frick does this movie mean? And I did that, and I couldn't find a single answer that actually remotely made sense. Like, it was that she's kind of, like, the husband's kind of a baby, or she's being emotionally manipulated. Like, I did not understand it whatsoever. And so there was some cool creepy imagery in that ending. I was a bit disturbed. I didn't hate the ending. I just wish I got a bigger answer. So the first 30 minutes, boring. The middle 30 to 45 is genuinely kind of creepy, and then the ending just goes so batcrap off the walls crazy that I don't know what to think about it. But it was a fine movie, and at the end, I'd say I'd rather watch this over rewatch Ex Machina. I think that's what really decided my placement for these two movies. Runner-up, Alex Garland's Civil War. This is one of my most anticipated movies of this year, and I gotta say, I genuinely had a good enough time with it. I love that the movie didn't decide to choose sides. It didn't decide what side of the liberal stuff that it was going to go on. It decided to tell this story that could be very controversial through photography and through reporting. And that was very interesting to me, because that was a very interesting way to tell the story. Of course, it didn't quite work out, because people still had something to say about, oh, it just doesn't pick a side, we're getting offended. Yeah, whatever. But anyways, I really like that. I think the cast here is all great. Kirsten Dunst is pretty great in this movie. I never really liked her as an actress. I've only seen her in a couple things. And this one, I didn't even know it was her. And I was like, yeah, she's really good. But a big standout was Jesse Plemons in the one scene he's in, for like one of the most intense experiences that I've had in a movie theater all year. Like, man, I was at the edge of my seat in that movie. I had people that were talking behind me the whole movie, which was genuinely pissing me off, but they all shut up during that scene. Like, everybody in the theater just got dead quiet, and it was pretty awesome at that point in time. The not CGI, but the visual effects and specifically the sound design, I think, is great. There's never been a movie where every time there's a gunshot, I genuinely, in a theater, in my small AMC theater that doesn't have the best screens or the best sound, I genuinely got scared, and I did every single time. The sound design is so great. Again, with Alex Garland, I don't really think he can wrap up an ending as well as he did with the next movie we're going to talk about, but I feel like everything up into like the last 2 minutes was good. I feel like it should have added an extra 5 minutes to kind of explain something else that was going on, because all of a sudden Kirsten Dunst dies, and then the movie's over. Like, they take a picture of the dead president, and then the movie's over. I feel like it could have explored something like them actually getting emotional that Kirsten Dunst died, because she was the main character, and all of a sudden she's dead, and we get like a minute and a half to realize, oh, she's dead, we gotta move on. Which I get, maybe that's kind of the point of it, but from a movie perspective, it didn't really work for me. And then the movie never really tries to explain anything about what the Civil War is going on. I had a talk with my friend Colby, and he had some interesting things to say why he thinks the Civil War happened, and I admit they were interesting, but the movie never really tries to explain that to me. But overall, I think that this one is on a completely different level than the bottom two movies on this list. I still think that this was a pretty great movie, and I'd recommend it to anybody, but it's not even a question. Coming in first place is Annihilation. I watched this, what is it, 2-3 nights ago? I'd say today's Tuesday, so 2 nights ago. Well, it's 12:06, so 3 nights ago now. But I really remind me never to watch this movie again before I go to sleep, because wow. So the movie, just from beginning to end, had a very unique concept. There was this big glimmer thing, and you don't know what's in it. You don't know how, you can't get in there without, like, you never come back. And so the whole movie, you just want to know what this shimmer thing is and what's actually going on. And so from, like, the beginning of the movie, you're interested, like, the very, very beginning, you're interested is, number one, her husband disappeared. Number two, he comes back and he's acting strange. And number three, you learn the shimmer. That's all in the first 10 minutes. So you're invested in the story from beginning to end. And then quickly after that, it's just a, for the next half hour, I'd say it's a pretty intriguing movie. There's some cool sequences here. You get to know the cast a little bit. You're still finding out answers and learning a little bit about what this world's like, and that's interesting. And then I'd say the moment that we get to the bear sequence, this movie goes on a whole nother level. Like, after that bear sequence, I was genuinely terrified for the rest of the movie. Not only was the bear terrifying with, like, his design, his concept was cool, and through the execution it was phenomenal, where he'd open his mouth and the last thing you hear is the screams of his past victims. I was terrified during that sequence, and I was just at the edge of my seat, and I was sitting at home. I'm normally, like, rarely, unless something super, super scary, at the edge of my seat like that, and I really was here. And then, after that, we get the rest of the movie, and then when we get to the last, I'd say 15 minutes of the movie, okay. The thing is about this movie, the thing that I've been complaining about for the last couple of movies, is that he cannot stick the ending. Is that Alex Garland is a director that just doesn't understand, or he doesn't allow his viewers to understand what's actually happening, unless you're Ex Machina, which you try to get your viewers to understand what's happening. This one right here was just, it works because he doesn't tell you what's happening. You don't know what this thing even is, and it just scares you because you're put in the footsteps of Natalie Portman, and you don't know what it is. You don't know what to do in this situation. It's a thing we've never seen before. The design is creepy. My God, when it started changing faces to look like a human, I genuinely could not look away, but that image was stuck in my head for the last 3 days now. It was just, like, Alex Garland explores this as, in a way, he makes it terrifying because you're literally put in these footsteps as these people. You don't have an advantage. You don't know what's going on. And so when stuff does go down, you're trying to figure it out along with the characters, and it is just insanely terrifying. I was terrified throughout the entire movie, and I'd say that by far it's Alex Garland's best film. I think he's done directing movies, but if he ever makes a film again, I don't ever think it's going to top this one. This is a movie that I want to check out again, but I don't want to check out again, if that makes sense, because it's so terrifying. If you love horror movies, if you love messed up movies, I'd highly recommend this movie. It is phenomenal. But that was my Alex Garland ranking. Tell me down below, what is your Alex Garland ranking? Do you like his films? For me, I say that the 4, 3, and 2 spot was, they're good movies. I just don't think they're the best. Number 1 was one of my favorite movies of all time. I loved it, but I want to know all that and more down below in the comment section. Stay tuned. I'm going to have an April ranking. I know I put up in a poll that I was going to watch The Fall Guy this week, and now I'm not because work and stuff got in the way. So now I'm not gonna get to watch that movie till it comes home, and I'm sad. Anyways, I will have that, and then next week I'm going to do Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coverage, my most anticipated movie of the year. Stay tuned for all those videos. Go subscribe to my second channel if you like more niche content where I'm like talking about specific cool stuff that you'll never really, specific cool stuff that I can never really talk about on this channel. And for a bonus, if you're a sports fan, I talk about sports on that second channel as well. But with that said, go subscribe to both those channels. With this one, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.